Just say it to my face, you're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face, you're sorry.
Join our membership program, sign up, find out what's going on, become a patron, and support our work. We're doing these amazing virtual live streams covering events, marches, protests, and actions that mainstream media just isn't covering.
A lot of these very common sense policy interventions aren't given the space they need.
You know, the truth is, before we have the political revolution, we need a media revolution.
We really see this opening in the media space, with television transitioning to the internet in particular. Streaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, etc., are the next frontier.
And we're not mainstream media. You're not getting a 10-second clip and a very watered down, whitewashed version of what's going on.
Having a media company to support these kind of movement efforts is extremely valuable.
People want to talk to us because they know that we're talking to the people.
We need a dedicated, empowered, honorable base of people who are willing to fight for what they believe in.
This needs to be all of us, not just like watching great content, not just sharing great content, but taking the correlated action and making sure that together these movements are more effective across the board.
We are amplifying activist messages, activist movements, activist campaigns, activist call to action. There's no more important work to be done in this country right now, and ACT TV is doing it, and we need you to be a member. Go to act.tv and sign up to be a member today.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Today is Friday, January 7th, 2022, and welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. It is day 67 of my political and economic exile. I will be telling you more about that in the days to come. I want to begin this morning just with a thought that I had in my morning meditations outside on a morning that's finally cold. I will have to say this has been the warmest winter that I have experienced in a long time, but we finally got some cold. And while I was outside meditating, it dawned on me that we all have a responsibility to do our part. And that is holistically speaking, or whether it is doing our part, it's something my grandfather used to teach me. Whenever I got a chance to be in East Cleveland with him, he would tell me a couple of things. Just do your part. And if a job is worth doing, it's worth doing right. I'm thinking about that this morning because, you know, in this fight for freedom and liberation and for justice, there are a lot of moving pieces. And a lot of times we have people who want the credit for things more so than they want to just do their part. I don't know why that's on my mind this morning. Maybe Pastor Anthony Galloway, who always comes in on Fridays and drops some spiritual as well as philosophical knowledge as we venture into the philosophical gut bucket, I think is what you called it, on Fridays. First of all, brother, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm great. It's you talk about finally getting some colder. We've got it. It's a -11 at the moment.
Oh,
here.
Well, congratulations. I'm glad somebody got it. It finally got down to, I mean, no, it was literally 80 degrees in the Southeast over Christmas. And then when the New Year came in, it was the balmy 60 something degrees, but now it finally dropped to somewhere around the 30s, which is kind of average for the Southeast. I know Boston cold. I don't know Minneapolis cold. That's a different kind of cold.
Both weather-wise and, of course, racially and interpersonally too. Your earlier space to say gut bucket of existential crisis is what I keep using.
That's what it is.
That's not mine. That's my uncle's. But I'm gonna claim it. But no, I think I'm just going to jump out and say it right away in that space. I don't think we are willing to go there enough. And that is part of why you keep hearing me laugh and joke about that in response. But it's one of the places that I want to keep people going to, because it reminds us about what's at stake, especially in order to create space to care for somebody else.
That's right. That's right. Pastor Anthony, I always love bringing you on the show because we have this kind of juxtaposition here on the show. We have, it's funny. Two spiritual guys on the screen, but my biggest supporters are atheists. In fact, one of my longest time supporters is a young man who considers himself to be a Satanist, but he recognizes the faith element of my work. In fact, he found my work because of my faith. And it's just weird because as you pursue truth in your studies and you come on the show and you talk about it, I haven't had a complaint from a single atheist since you've been on the show. I haven't, because, and here's the reason I'm saying that this morning, because I have a clip that I want us to start with one preacher by the name of Shane Vaughn. But I'm saying that this morning because truth is truth. If you are truly in the pursuit of truth, then you will reject lies, propaganda, half-truths, misinformation, and you'll be willing to look in the mirror when you are wrong and say, okay, I was wrong, so let me follow the truth. And I think at any point you tell a lie on the show, like me, I think everybody would send up a red flag. So what is it about truth that is truth, regardless of whether you're pursuing it from a scientific perspective or a faith perspective?
Well, I think, this actually comes up quite a bit. And because we've only been given one dose or one representation of what it means, in my context, to be Christian, right? And to be Black and Christian, and then those have those layers with it. I think you don't have, when you're presented with a faith walk that is around truth, that embraces cultural identity, and then embraces the actual teachings of how to be and care for another person. There's not a whole lot there to push away. There's not a whole lot there to rally against. And so I think part of the shift there is, you know, and there's always been folks like that in Christian faith space. And so there's not something to push against so much as to explore together. You know, I will say that one of the things that in the essence of pursuing truth. I said this at a rally yesterday on January 6th. It was put on by the League of Women Voters in Duluth. You know, this is a town where 3 Black men were lynched off of the falsehood, off of a mob acting on a falsehood tied with their mentality of racism and supremacy. So on January 6th, some of us were watching and shocked, and some of us were watching a repeat. And so that pursuit of truth and wisdom and all those things create a space where we put a lot less effort into how we're different and how we can push away and counterpoint, and we focus much more on what it looks like and what it sounds like to pursue that which is going to help us. And I think that's always going to be inviting, regardless of what faith or cultural background is behind.
That's right. Because at the end of the day, we can't be so heavenly minded, as my grandmother used to say, that we're no earthly good. Right. We got work to do down here. It's like, regardless of what you believe, there's a lot of time that's wasted arguing over the existence or the non-existence of anything, when in reality, we're fighting against very present threats that are real on this earth: poverty, homelessness, environmental disaster, climate change, war. I mean, let's just, the list of things that we have to address here in front of us right now are long enough for us to not waste all of our time with those edge arguments, especially not even edge arguments. When, you know, you can't convince people who don't want to be convinced one way or the other. And when we have to work together to fight against a particular brand of Christianity and religion in general, this fundamentalism that has mixed itself with violent rhetoric that is a very clear, present, tangible threat to the lives of marginalized people. I want us to take a listen into this first clip of Pastor Shane Vaughn. Now, I played it earlier this week, but Pastor Galloway, I had to play it again when you came back. Listen to now how he's using religion to vilify Blackness and Black Lives Matter. Take a listen in.
LM does not seek peace, it seeks war. It does not seek understanding, it seeks tyranny. BLM is demons. And you tell them I said so. Give them my mailing address, P.O. Box 2757, Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, 39521. You demon spirit called BLM, I curse you in the name of Yeshua the Messiah for what you have done in the United States of America. You Nephilim demon spirit, shut down your demands. America will not succeed or accede to your tyranny. We will not surrender to your demands. Why? Because no demand they ever make will satisfy their demon minds. God bless America, the greatest nation on the face of planet Earth, and we will never, ever surrender to these demon powers called Black Lives Matters. You demons from hell, go back to the roach pit from whence you came, saith the Lord.
He thinks because he puts "saith the Lord" at the end of it that it carries some kind of special power. Pastor Galloway, before I go off the deep end, thoughts?
Well, so you're catching me because I don't dignify this frame of thinking with much thought. So forgive me on that. Listen, at the front end, he uttered the statement, we are at war, right? We don't, that Black Lives Matter doesn't represent peace. It doesn't represent understanding, and it's something to war against. From a white supremacist mindset rooted in the superiority of whatever group I want to put insert blank here, that may be a true statement. Black Lives Matter, absolutely. is not seeking to understand that which seeks the destruction of
That's right.
of movements for freedom and change.
That's right.
So I that's the one nugget of truth I can pull out of that. There's also a reference there to Nephilim. This is something that's starting to make its way in some of the popular mindsets like this that loosely try to claim connection to Christianity, and I mean that emphatically in that space,
Yes,
right? Nephilim, fallen angels, or large beings that were there both before and after the floods in the biblical speak there. So just grasping at whatever will make the folklore that's being written here. The underlying piece here that is probably sorry, I see your face.
No. It's folk. It is folklore being written in real time, right? They're creating their own myth and their own narrative that they know in about 50 years people will be studying them. That's
Right.
that. When you said it like that, it really struck a nerve. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just there's this underlying piece, and this is where I'm starting to really put a lot of time and effort, and that is this is seeking to wrap an identity in place of something else. When somebody's talking about connecting to, just get somebody talking about Irish heritage or their ancestors or their families and things like that, things that are rooted in the actual things that build culture over time and ethnicity over time, right? You just don't have at the end of that the same kind of things that this new political identity project that is being espoused here, really at the core of what this person is saying, this pastor is saying. It allows you to go into some places and wrap around you this mindset that makes everybody else the enemy, that makes you feel like you are losing ground, that you are losing something, and it allows you to be driven to all of these different things that no longer have to have a foot in reality.
That's right. That's right.
If you have a strong cultural identity that's rooted in real people, not in ideology, but in real people, you're a lot less disturbed or uncomfortable with truth and reality.
Okay. And because real life people will tighten you up if they're good people, right? You can't take some of this foolishness around some of the brothers in the neighborhood because they're going to tighten you up. Some of the sisters in the church, they ain't going to put up with you saying a whole bunch of this kind of stuff. But when you have a political ideology that severs you, and I'm building off of what you're saying here. When you have a political ideology or any kind of cultural world ideology that severs you from your local community, but inserts you into a virtual community that gives you the same sense of community, the same sense of affirmation, the same sense of satisfaction and success, then all of a sudden you have this entire false reality that feels extremely real to you. But it's not real because you could barely go out of your house and repeat what you say on the internet in real life.
A snake's gonna strike when it's backed into a corner. And so I need to use language like Black Lives Matter is demons and give some kind of thing that markers that, because if we don't have those things, the identity goes away, because the identity is rooted in that fear of other folks. And how vehemently do folks defend themselves for the protection of their identity, their heritage, their quote unquote essence or way of being? Nobody has told these folks that there's a whole lot of other ways to be and to claim identity. This is the fight that allows me to walk into a crowded hospital with folks, having to retake over chapel space because we no longer have a space for folks of different backgrounds to come pray in our hospital because we need the bed space. We need space to physically put stretchers. This is and yet look at all of that and arrive at none of this is real.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of delusion requires a whole lot of leaps and jumps that this pastor was just doing with their folklore.
Exactly. I'm so glad you ended with that word, because that's exactly where I was going. Right. They're building this folklore, and what has already happened. We can see this has already happened. It led to January 6th. Right. All of the folklore that they've been telling themselves, particularly whiteness in this country, white supremacy in this country, all of the lies that it has had to tell itself to sustain itself, amalgamated into what we saw on January 6th, where all of these men, predominantly white conservative men, marched up the steps of the Capitol on Insurrection Day and believed that they had a legitimate claim against the United States of America, such that they had the right to overthrow the election results. And at the end of the day, Pastor Galloway, all of it was nothing more than folklore and a myth that got a lot of them arrested, but not enough of them.
And that's exactly it. I mean, and keep in mind that this is despite all of the folks that have been sent with this assumption that went and checked the assumption and arrived at the conclusion, judges and courthouses and lawsuits and all of these different things, folks who carry the same, political mentality. And I have to use that clearly because you got folks like David Brookins who may have more of a conservative lean into their policy, to his policy beliefs and stuff like that, but draws a very distinct line from denying the reality in front of him. So you've gotten the truth of the matter from your own folks that you sent to go and confirm your falsehood, and came back to you and said, no, we ran the numbers and the count's legit, that all these other things legit. And now I'm even denying that.
Right. And so that everyone is with us, you're saying when the judges ran the numbers, the result was the jury came back and said, you're not aggrieved, white people.
Right.
You're not white supremacy. You've got nothing. You have no legitimate claim against the United States of America. And in fact, there's a claim against the United States of America because of white supremacy. Right.
And the reason I reference David Brookins is because I like David Brookins' writing, because he's somebody who he's a statistician, because he's gonna. I long for the times when we were having debates about actual policy, right, and coming on to a different side legitimately based on reason and logic on different sides of policy, and got wonky in that way because we at least knew and could trust that we were talking about real data, real reality, real things on the ground, and then just arriving at, David Brookins and I can't remember his counterpart. They used to do this thing where they're both data-driven folks, economists who were on each side of the political spectrum, and they would have some conversations back and forth, but it was rooted in a kind of logic that made sense. Right. And even, we're not talking about those folks. That's not the bit we're talking about.
No. We're not dealing with the William F. Buckleys anymore. We're not dealing with the even Barry Goldwater in all of his problems. He was able to draw together a coherent argument all the way to the conclusion, and you make your decision whether you agree with him or not. There's a lot of chapters in his book, Conscience of a Conservative, I disagree with. Most of them I disagree with, but there's at least a logical argument at play that you can follow to its conclusion. We're not dealing with that level of intelligence anymore.
Yeah, because your identity is not wrapped up into a political ideology that you have to fight and defend for, and then will walk yourself into the willingness to to do and act in ways and pick up things. Because if I don't do that, I'm concerned that I might not have anything left. This is a huge thing, when you back somebody into a corner. A whole lot of different things come out, right? This is why you're trained for those who provide, spiritual care and other things like that. That we ain't in the business of backing folks to corners. We're in the business of trying to figure out how to let folks look at the different ways of being, right? And to give a scaffold for how to be a good person to each other at your core, right? And that is, you back somebody into a corner, you these reactions tend to come out, right? I will, in one part. The other piece comes from Dr. D. McIntosh, local pastor, Reverend, taught at Bethel University for a while here in the Twin Cities. Powerful, just Black leader and thinker, right? And Black liberation theology, right? And one of the things that she says is when you think about shame, it's something called ontological shame. Now I'm getting a little wonky and heady here, but the idea here is that when you're presented with shame as a response, your brain does two things. You tend to do two things. You either tend to accept and work through the hard walk of making sense of it, or you create a reality in which that never occurred in the first place.
My goodness, we're going somewhere with this. We got another story we have to talk about, but I do have to tell you this. When I was confronted with the fact that I wasn't necessarily as good of a person as I thought I was, man, I had a choice to make. Actually, I didn't have a choice to make. I think I almost had like a mini stroke, because dealing with that type of courageous confrontation with yourself and that shame, man, you either fight or flight, right? It's a fight or flight response. We'll come back to that in a minute. I got a feeling that a lot of other stuff is going to connect to that. I want to move to January 6th and a divide that's happening. And I don't know if it's so much of a divide, but Ted Cruz, who I don't trust as far as I can smell him, decided to call the January 6th insurrectionists terrorists, which I have to say was first said on this show by Rebecca Azor. on day one, January 6th last year, she was like, she doesn't like the fact that they're calling it an insurrection when these people are terrorists. Well, Ted Cruz a year later caught up with Rebecca Azor, and other Republicans didn't like it. Matt Gaetz, the dunce from the 1st Congressional District of Florida, had this to say to Ted Cruz about his turncoat.
The establishment will never love you, Ted. You know, you can bend over at bended knee for them, but they're just not going to love you. I think that was maybe an effort by the good senator, who we agree with on many things, to recast himself in the eyes of some of the folks in your profession. But we didn't find it particularly factual or sincere.
Add to the dunce Ku Klux Klan. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican from Georgia, says that she was very upset about January 6th because January 6th interrupted her, Pastor Galloway, from being able to pursue a fair election, right? So she said January 6th stopped her from preventing the election results. Let's take a listen into this moron.
I want you all to know that on January 6th, I was very upset with what happened that day, and it was because it completely interrupted the work that we had worked very hard on all throughout Christmas, preparing for January 6th to object on behalf of Americans that felt their votes had been stolen.
Now, our friend that we just got through talking about, Shane Vaughn, he says that anyone who is turning against Trump over his support for, and actually I want to breeze through these, right? He goes one step further and says that anyone who is turning on Trump over his support for COVID vaccine is really turning against God. If you're losing faith in Donald Trump, you're really losing faith in the God that put him in office. Pastor Shane Vaughn, you're on stage again.
Now, many people have told me that they're losing faith in Donald Trump because of his stand on the vaccine. Let me correct you. You're not losing faith in Donald Trump, because it was not Donald Trump that put Donald Trump in that office. 4 years before Donald Trump was ever known about running for office, Yahweh, the God of heaven, spoke through the mouth of a prophet and said that a man named Donald would be put into the White House, and that man Donald would be the servant of Yahweh to restore America. And guess what else that God said? That this man would serve 2 terms. So if you're losing faith in Donald Trump, you're really losing faith in the God that put him in office. And that's a dangerous thing. Okay.
Pastor Galloway, I got more clips, but I want to pause there because these people worship Donald Trump, and more so than just the man, they worship the ideology of Trumpism and the freedom that it gave them to be full-fledged idiots publicly, as well as full-fledged bigots publicly. It's never been a better time to be a village idiot of white supremacy. You could go all the way to the White House. But these clips show me that these people have an unyielding dedication to their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump.
So you know, the one thing I ain't gonna do go for is be in a space of using the same language that you using.
Yes, no, well, folks. I'm here as a foil. I'm here as a foil for you.
Yeah, no. It's I'm laughing at this because this is how I wish folks were talking and putting it out there, right? So I'm not gonna call somebody a village idiot in terms of that space, right? Just so folks know, that's not how I roll. So I have this is why I'm enjoying
flavor out there.
Well, I'm enjoying the exchange because you said it right in ways that I just that's not what compels me. The only reason I'm bringing that up, right, is because in this conversation, then we get to talk about that, and that's the exchange that's not happening underneath this, right? So I just want to say that. The second piece is he actually preached a word to me, because he's, if we're going to talk about God putting and moving things forward, that doesn't just come in the form of somebody who rises in as a champion. That also comes in the form of somebody who's going to teach you something about what happens. If you want to get biblical on it in Joshua and Judges, in particular in Judges, you see a bunch of folks who start moving away from where God wants them to be, and others are allowed to show up as examples to get them back right. Right. Look at what happens when you ditch me, when you push me away. There are going to be some things that remind you. And I think that remind you could be somebody who comes and gives you wisdom, or somebody who makes you find wisdom because where you're headed down there. Now, I just found that fascinating, that if we wanted to
I don't mean to interrupt, but would you tie that to what we were just talking about when you're severed in a community? You're severed from the reality of a community, because that community is what tightens you up in the way that you're just describing.
Right. Well, truth don't go away, right? And so, you know, when I try to disassociate, there's going to be a moment. I'm running the clock to when that reality comes crumbling down, right? And so, when we work with folks who have been abused as children, right? And that shame response that predators use cause them to completely forget about their abuse, right? I can deny that as long as I want to. There's going to be a moment when I can no longer run from the reality of what happened, and that comes out in self-harm. It comes out in all of these negative ways, but it will come out. It will pop through at some point. And I think that there's that part of what Trump represents is a wake-up call. Part of what the insurrection at the rally the other day, there were so many people talking about how shocking that was to the psyche. And I panned around and looked at the folks of color who said, yeah, this is Thursday, right? Welcome to what happens in the mob, right? So that's what I'm getting at in that, you know, our wake-up calls don't always come in nice, cute packages. Sometimes it comes in a reminder about how serious the situation is, and we have to wake up and deal with it. You know, I also think about, you know, the unwillingness to look. Remember Marjorie Taylor Greene just earlier went on a rant about Kwanzaa as a fake religious holiday, where one Google search will quickly tell you that the origin is specifically non-religious.
That's right.
But I don't do even the effort of a simple Google search because of the fear. And this is what I'm trying to walk to, right? How tenuous it is to, you know, and how much energy it takes to deny reality in front of you. That is a lot of energy. And if I'm spending all of that energy just trying to defend an identity that isn't real, that is a lot of energy. And folks will wrap themselves in pretzels to try to deny what's right in front of us in order to protect that thing, just like the shame response. So I keep hearing this cycle over and over again. You said gut bucket of existential crisis.
No, we in here now. So the dog, you shouldn't have said nothing because I was about to make a connection. But
sorry.
My brain, listen, this is the first on the show, like, because here's where let's go back to the first thing you said, because I know it's all going to connect. The thing that strikes me about this, and the reason that I love having you on the show, is because you're almost like a mirror for me. We both have a lot of the same foundations, different denominations. I decided to go my route, and you are a pastor, which is one of the routes that is, you know, clearly anybody who's been watching my show know I've been down that road. Okay, I can't hide that from anybody. That said, it's the ability to see, right? All I have started to do, Pastor Galloway, is use the type of language and the rhetoric and the style that these people have been wielding against this country for a very long time. And what I notice, the people who are the most appalled by it, watch this, are the same evangelical Christians who are listening to these type of people every day, the Shane Bonds. Online, when they see me treat them with the reflection of how they treat other people, when I speak with them in the language of village idiot, when I refer to them as intellectual capacity of a sloth, you know, they are so taken aback by that cruel language, yet and still they support January 6th, yet and still they support the language against Black Lives Matter, that we're demons. Why is it that they can't see the mirror when they're looking in it, but they can clearly see the harsh rhetoric that I'm more than happy to wield against them if it gets their attention?
You know, it's you know, this is a very important distinction in place to put in, because I often have to not see it, right? I have to be able to to do both of those things, because that's the reality that I'm trying to put forward. As I'm running from reality, I have to be able to do that. So to me, it's very simple. It's very easy to do those things because I'm already building a kind of chamber of falsehood around me just to be able to deny or push away that which may conflict. Because remember, I'm wrapping an identity around this. When you wrap an identity around something, right, with the acceptance of something else, the acceptance of different truth, the acceptance of logic or data that discounts my worldview, isn't just a mind shift. Isn't just, oh, that's how it works instead. Oh, the numbers pan out differently. Okay, well, dang, I have to accept that. It's not that. It's if I accept that and allow that to come in, then the core root that I built an identity around starts to unravel. And that's the lie that I'm trying to fight, because that's absolutely untrue. You have a long history. You can tell me family stories. You can tell me you have a whole upbringing of humanity that is not tied to a political identity that you can grab hold of. And we've got folks that here are being told or being convinced that's not available to them. That is the lie.
So maybe deliverance is showing them that connection that exists beyond even America's original sin. Anyway, before I throw all of the answers out here, let's take a quick break. Can you hang out over the break? When we come back, yes, we're gonna get on the clock and cover a couple of stories. Georgia Fort's not with us today, but there's still a lot of serious news that we have to cover from the on the clock perspective. And then coming up at 9:15, we are going to be joined by Professor Ball and Chalangi Changa as we institute our very first Free 'em All Fridays, discussing our political prisoners in the American penal system. We'll be back with more of the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show after this.
Hey man, shout out to Jam Toom as well. Jam Toom says, y'all have been kicking ass at Benjamin Dixon. Y'all have elevated your audience, those you raid and yourselves, and it looks to be smooth as butter. Well done. Shout out Jam Toom. Jam Toom is the mama over there on Twitch. I call her the mama. Love you, Jam Toom.
If you want love, look somewhere else. Heal for nothing. Just give it up.
Ooh.
I'm not your girl, cause I only love
Davis
me.
sent me a message in Slack saying we got Patreon updates, and my God, today.
You and I could have fun together when I feel.
Let's go ahead and get these read, because when I tell y'all are the same, I appreciate it. We have some new Patreon members this morning. Good morning, Cat Givens. Big Peace. What's going on? B-Day, what's going on? Good morning to you. All right, our new patrons for today. We have Janitor F, not Jennifer F, but Janitor F. Devo E, good morning. Chicken Fried Dragon, of course, doubled their pledge yesterday. This was on Twitch and Patreon. Okay, shout out to you. And I think that should be Jennifer as well, too, David. Also, we have Nancy V, who doubled their pledge. Shout out Nancy V. Baba R. We appreciate Baba R. And Devo E actually joined both Patreons. God damn, that's what I'm talking about. I appreciate you, man. Shout out to you, Devo E. All right, our new Twitch subscribers, we have African Beard. All right, African Beard. Rachel Letney resubscribed, and they've been subscribed for 7 months. Superfly Trans Guy. Ooh, shit, I love that name. Superfly Trans Guy resubscribed and been subscribed for 3 months. Welcome. Of course, from yesterday, we had Aria who resubscribed. We have the Agnostic Sister who resubscribed and gifted a subscription to Neon Death 07 and Tiger Cat Sune, who resubscribed with Palm and commented, "We in here for the long run," and been subscribed for 10 months, man. Shout out to everybody that's joined on Twitch, Patreon, everything, man. Once again, if you have not already, patreon.com/Like-It or Not, patreon.com/The BPD Show. Y'all come on, man. Definitely want to get in there. Make sure you're at the patron party tonight. It goes down 9 p.m. It'll be a good time. Y'all make sure y'all bring y'all drinks, y'all smokes, everything, whatever you need. Let's get it done. Mama and Daddy. Alicia, good morning.
If you want love, just give it
morning to you. Alicia, that's right. Party tonight. Patron party tonight. It's going down. First patron party in New Year. I think we're going to do one next week as well, too. Make sure that we get both our patron parties in for the month. Okay? Yep, Mama, I'm good. Mama, good seeing you as well as you. XOXO Bob, good morning. Happy Friday to you as well. Happy Friday, everyone.
No, it just can't hurt me. No.
Simone Lewis, good morning.
No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no. I know it's hard to be polite, and it's easy being petty. My mama used to tell me, gotta use you when he ready. Man, it's crazy how my brother said it could have been my study. It's either prison or a grave. That's what everybody tell me. Man, life ain't a beach, it's a female dog. I'm staying 10 toes down, though I still might fall. Oh yeah, now I done came through, knocking bitches off you out. Cause loving people who persecute you, it's still a be a light up on my path and a lamp under my feet. I know my faith strong, but my flesh still kinda weak. When that victory be looking like the verge of defeat.
Queen Abby, good morning to you.
Let me turn my other cheek and say sticks and stones may break my bones, but you words can't hurt me.
Sorry.
No, you just can't hurt me.
Yeah, Starshine, this is Sticks and Stones by Northern Sun.
More than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No. You just can't.
Barbara Ebron, good morning from California. All right, Cali West Side is in the building. William Monk, good morning to you. Shout out to everybody across the pond as well, too.
You just can't hurt.
Y'all be tuning in and rocking with us every morning. We appreciate y'all so much.
See, it's hard to be polite. It's easy being petty. Mama used to tell me, gotta use you when you're ready. Cause I ain't working on my own time and ain't got no diamonds on me.
All right, y'all. We will be back soon with more music, but we gotta get to this show, man. We got a great show for y'all this morning, so you don't want to miss it. And it's time for us to get to it. So welcome back to the screen, my brother from another mother, Benjamin Dixon, y'all. On the clock starts now.
My faith strong, but my flesh still.
Good morning, and happy Friday. You know, we now at this point, Ben, are well into 2022. And I think people were thinking that 2022 was going to be a new year, but something happened in 2020 where it feels like 2021 was just a continuation of 2020. And now 2022 is starting to feel like a continuation of 2021.
Oh my God! Today, yes, it is.
You just
what did it say? 2022
and broke our hearts early in the morning. Just came in and just ripped our hearts out of us. Georgia, how you doing?
Right.
It's like the sequel, you know.
I don't know. Wait, Georgia, you know I
damn it, Georgia.
I'm about to get real religious real quick. I'm gonna have to rebuke you in the name of Jesus because I need 2022. I honestly need 2022 to be a lot better than 2021, me personally. But you're right. The first, we're not even, it's 20 days in, 22 days, 21 days in. And some of the same foolishness is actually getting worse than getting better since 2021. So I reluctantly feel what you're saying this morning. Sis, how you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm doing good. It's Friday. Ceriso is he traveled out of town, so I am again stuck with the girls. Luckily, they're still sleeping right now, but all is well in the Ford household.
That's what's going on. Good. It's good to know. It's good to know Ceriso is doing well and the family's doing. James, thank you for what you're doing on the music and being here with us this morning. It's Friday. Matter of fact. If legend holds true, if the myth of Rebecca Azor is accurate, she too will be joining us momentarily. I hear that she's going to be joining us early today, and we'll have a. Go ahead, Jay.
If I play the right song, maybe it'll summon Rebecca.
You better get it together.
I got a Haitian song I can play. It might summon her to come.
Okay. Now, Georgia, here's the thing. Like the way I structure the way I present myself is I allow the you and Rebecca, y'all set the parameters of how I behave. When we do On the Clock, we normally cover some serious news, but if you leave it up to me and James, we're going to be, especially because it's Friday. It's just that. And we got a patron party tonight. I want to remind everybody, patreon.com, whether you are a supporter of Georgia Fort. Matter of fact, Georgia, we don't shout out your website enough on here, georgiafort.com. Go there and become a supporter of Georgia Fort. Like it or not, the Benjamin Dixon Show. We got the patron party going on tonight. That said, Georgia, I have been talking about Kyle Rittenhouse, and I know you, obviously, with your coverage, you have been covering that story since the beginning, since the inception. Recently, yesterday, he announced that he wants to have the gun that he used to kill 2 Black Lives Matter protesters. He wants to have that gun destroyed. Now, I want to play the full segment. It's a segment from our friend over at the Damage Report, John Iadarola, with the TYT network, as he breaks down this newfound, whatever this is that Kyle Rittenhouse is doing, because I'm sorry, I have a hard time believing that he wants to destroy the gun out of compassion and empathy and those good things. To me, it seems like he might be setting himself up for a book deal. We'll get to that in a minute. Here's a clip of Kyle Rittenhouse discussing why he wants to get rid of the gun and the way this country celebrates a 2-time murderer.
For Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle.
This is your gun, right?
That's my rifle.
Yeah, that is yours, right?
That we're having destroyed right now. We don't want anything to do with that.
Oh, wow.
Kyle Rittenhouse, in the wake of his multiple killings, his public image, he wanted to assure you that your beliefs that you might have immediately had about him politically are not true. This doesn't really represent who he is. You think that he's some sort of white supremacist or that this was an ideological thing. That's not true at all. Of course, he then went and did a documentary with Tucker Carlson, and he's appeared on every like caveman right-winger show and podcast and all that in the country. So what's next for him? Apparently, if you thought he might want to be moving on from this whole thing and not having it define his existence, maybe not. He's apparently considering writing a book about his unorthodox journey into adulthood. And by that he means the time he decided to go and shoot people. His spokesperson, which he has, says that there are preliminary internal discussions about him writing a book. Read that as another person writing a book and him signing off on it. He's not literally going to write one single word about himself. They said it will most likely be a story of a young man's very unorthodox journey into adulthood, what it took to make it, and the lessons he learned along the way. What do you mean what he took to make it? He took a gun he shouldn't have had to a protest and shot people. He learned some lessons about how to make money off of killing people. He definitely learned that.
The lessons he's learned is how to be a good right winger. And people are like, hey, you got to do some way to make sure you capitalize off of this attention. So since you're catering to old conservatives, you have to write a book. What is it about what Kyle Rittenhouse would write or someone else would write in his name would make you think, hey, this guy has lots to say that I'd like to hear?
Now, that second voice was JR from the TYT network and the Damage Report. Everything that they said, I agree. I think it is rooted in the book. But Georgia, to me, what stands out is the fact that after this man killed those 2 Black Lives Matter protesters who were white, but they were protesting on behalf of Black life. After he killed them, he started getting enough donations to be able to hire professional publicists, to be able to hire people who could do press releases, to not only that, to get the attorneys that he needed to get away with murder. So it just reminds me of, if you kill people in this country, and you don't even have to kill Black people anymore, you just got to kill people who agree with Black people, you still come out like a hero and get millions of dollars.
Yeah. And it's deeply disturbing that here we are in 2022 and you have Rittenhouse who can basically take a page out of the book of the killers of Emmett Till, and it still works in this nation. I've been following the series Women of the Movement on ABC over the last few weeks and just learning more about the trial surrounding those who were charged with Emmett's death. And we know today that nobody was ever charged for his kidnapping or his murder. And the gaslighting and everything that happened to his mother, who stood up and said by any means necessary she was going to fight for justice for her baby boy. And here with Rittenhouse, I mean, he literally has done the same exact thing that those men did decades ago, and it still works in this country. And so at what point, and it's not because Black people have, especially in the last 2 years, stood up and said that systematically there are things within the systems around us that are continuing to oppress us, that are continuing to produce inequities. At what point is white America going to wake up and say that we want to foster a different type of society? I mean, it made me sick to see that two-time killer on stage being celebrated like he's a superstar, but that's right. The society in which we live in. We have fostered spaces where people with these radical ideologies that feel like violence against Black people or violence against people who agree with Black people is okay. We're fostering these environments. And so what do you think is going to come from it? And it's a direct response to Trump having been in office, I think.
I absolutely agree. DJ exclusive. I don't know if you don't see it on my side, but I have to confess the legends are true. Rebecca Zor is here to join us in this conversation. That might be the earliest I've ever seen her, but this is an important conversation. I'm such an asshole. Y'all forgive me. I want to bring Rebecca into the conversation. It is a serious conversation. DJ exclusive, one of the first things you said when you saw that clip, before it even got 30 seconds into the clip, you immediately said how disgusting it was. But what blows me away is we can clearly see that the way they celebrate Kyle Rittenhouse in this country is absolutely disgusting. But to them, it's like they feel like they're on the right side of history, bro.
Like I said, it's absolutely disgusting. But I mean, unfortunately, it makes sense. This is the country that we live in, that they celebrate the killers of those that support Black people and black movements. So the way they celebrated that man and cheering his name on like he's some national treasure when he's a national POS. And if you don't know what that means, then I'm sorry. I can't tell you what it means. So, but figure it out.
Not on this show.
Not a piece of sugar.
Pounds of sugar.
Not a piece of sugar.
Rebecca Azor is with us early in the morning, sis. I know we're going to bring you in a moment, Rebecca, as soon as we get you on the screen, but we hear your voice. How you doing this morning, sis?
I'm doing good. Look, I ain't know. Okay. Hey, guys, glad to be on the clock today.
Yes. It is so good to see you.
Good to see you.
She's like, I'm awake. I'm waking up.
She says, trust me.
Everything was wrong over here. I'm looking at my mic. I'm like, you guys can hear me? Because I didn't know what was happening.
We heard everything, sis. We heard it all. Everything. But thankfully, we were talking.
Yeah.
But listen, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us early. It is Freedom Friday. We're blowing away the borders. No borders across the shows this morning. We're talking obviously about Kyle Rittenhouse. The other part of this is how professional sounding his PR team is. I don't know. Do we have that B-roll or the actual language, David, from his publicist? Because now the language coming out of team, he's got a whole team. Say that again, David.
This one didn't have that B-roll.
Okay, so Kyle Rittenhouse has a whole team now. His family has spokespeople now, right? And I'm not wealth or whatever. That's fine. If you're rich, whatever, we'll talk about that. But I am disgusted with the fact that his wealth, Rebecca, is rooted in the fact that he killed people supporting Black lives. Now, that's why he has publicists. That's why he has attorneys. He's wealthy now because of how he treated people supporting Black lives.
Yeah, he murdered them, and he was supported by white evangelicals who, upon other people, Karens, all of them, like the whole all these white groups who wanted to protect this person because this person was saying that, the country is browning. The black people are out of control. And we need to, get them in order. And this young fella did a noble thing in the name of America and went out and killed two white people, but went out and killed two allies. And
right.
for them, he was doing the work. He was doing the work of God. He deserved, repentance. He deserved forgiveness. And it was their job to get him that. Now, there are so many black folks in jail right now for minor things that can't even see a judge, can't get any assistance, can't get anything. This man, Kyle Rittenhouse, was in jail for like 2.5 seconds, got out, became a celebrity, is writing a book. Every time he steps out, he's being praised. It's not shocking to see because I've seen this in other areas with other people. Like people could work with Donald Trump, that 1 second and then go write a book and be so famous. This is the effect that things are happening now. But I don't know if I'm pissed to see it. Or if I'm pissed that I already expected that this would happen. It shouldn't be normal. This should not be every day. I don't like it. And look how he aged. Remember when they were trying to make him meek and humble and then young and still got milk on the tongue. Remember that? That was just like a few weeks ago.
That's right.
And now here he is on the stage and he's giving us grown ass man 5 kids, a trust fund kid. Like this is
trust fund,
Trust fund kid. Oh my gosh.
That's right. That's right. Sister Support, sound like you were about to jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to find the words for it because it's deeply disturbing and sickening. That we've arrived at a place as a society where someone who kills someone is celebrated. Right. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, where is the moral values that we used to uphold in this country? And maybe we never fully did, right? But we strived for that. And I feel like there was a period of time in this country where we were fighting for that. And it feels like our morale as a society has continued to erode and diminish to the point where someone kills someone and now they're a celebrity for that.
I don't want to belabor this point, but this is, we got to really, let's contextualize this. Kyle Rittenhouse is perhaps the most famous murderer in the most powerful empire in the history of the planet. Everybody understands that here to this point, the United States of America got more guns, more territory. They are the global empire. Kyle Rittenhouse is now the face that they promote as the hero of this American empire. That blows me away to see that white supremacy is so committed to itself that they would take this boy, this man, and take the fact that he's a murderer. It really just, I mean, the only thing I can compare it to be honest with you, I hate having to use religious allusions all the time, but it reminds me of the people who chose Barabbas over Jesus. They chose a murderer over Jesus in the Bible. And I'm like, y'all evangelical Christians, how can you even celebrate Christmas this year when y'all have literally picked Barabbas over the truth? You picked Barabbas over justice. And now they're parading this clown all over the country. And now he's getting ready to write a book. And so that he doesn't get the book deal taken away from him, he wants to be the moral, upstanding guy now because he's going to destroy the gun that he used to kill 2 people.
Ugh, I can't even stand to see his
just
face.
Disgusting, bro. Right. I'm sitting over here in this just absolute disgust looking at these pictures. It's just disgusting.
Because those people are gone. And
imagine how the families feel too.
And imagine how those families feel. But they, and these people are gone. Also, we know Kyle's name way more than we've, the victims. I couldn't tell you their names right now, the victims, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Unless I'm reading it from a script or a news article. And also, it's just very reminiscent of cops who kill black people or cops who kill people who are allies, or it's just that whole thing. He was a cop in training, so much so that the police officers who were here to serve and protect, right, in that moment, who were supposed to be serving and protecting everybody, but we know that's not what they're there for at the protest. But they were there to serve and protect people, were dapping them up, saying he's doing the right thing. So he felt empowered in that moment by the very people that are supposed to serve and protect us no matter what.
That's right. Well, they were throwing them bottles of water. They literally we had that footage. You know what? This is how the algorithm works. I had footage of the police officers actually throwing him water, and somebody on YouTube went through and took all those down with a copyright violation. Now that video might still be out there, but you got to search a lot deeper to find it. I say that to say there's plenty of evidence to show exactly what you're talking about, Rebecca. The fact that he was pals with the cops that night, the fact that they gave him cover, they gave him water, they gave him that validation that he needed to go out there and to do what he did. And so, you know what? One of y'all said it. I don't know whether we should be hurt or upset, because watching it unfold in real time, you kind of knew this was going to happen. You kind of knew that they were going to get behind him so much that he was going to be able to be found innocent in this injustice system of ours. So,
well, and then I think, the other question is what precedent has this set in the future if there are groups that decide to go out and exercise their First Amendment right? They're protesting, they're standing up for Black lives, and another Rittenhouse decides to come along and in his case, I mean, when you really look at the events that unfolded, he was there as an agitator. So you show up to a protest as an agitator with a gun. What precedent has this set for the future? And even here in Minneapolis, which was considered the epicenter of a global movement for police accountability, even here we're seeing legislation that is making it very difficult for organizers to kind of protest on the fly. So if let's say someone was killed by the police today, you would not be able to protest today. You could get a misdemeanor offense if you protested today, because the new requirement is that you pull a permit 7 days in advance. So the earliest you could protest after somebody would be killed by the police is 7 days. And if you don't comply with that, you will be charged with a misdemeanor. And so with the legislation combined with the fact that we've seen people like Rittenhouse go to protests, shoot people, kill people, and get off. We also saw that happen to a man named Kelvin Horton. Kelvin Horton was a Black man, a father of 5, I believe, in Minneapolis, protesting for George Floyd. A business owner shot and killed him and was never charged with anything.
Wow.
What precedent have we set here? Where are the protections for people exercising their First Amendment constitutional right?
Right. Georgia, at the I'm not going to give all the details, but you and I and our team, we're working on a story of something similar that happened in the state of Georgia, where now a young Black man was killed, not by police, but by one of his neighbors. And that neighbor was not arrested. There was no investigation. That neighbor is still free to this day, despite there being witnesses who said it was not self-defense. So the precedent that this has set is one where people now, and then, my God, there was a video, I don't think we covered it on the show, but right after Kyle Rittenhouse got off, there was 2 men who were fighting over stepchildren, and the father killed, or rather the boyfriend killed the father, and he wasn't arrested, right?
Yeah,
and we saw the video.
That one. Yeah,
we covered that on the show. Man,
yeah,
this is going to make a lot of people, Georgia, to your point, and I know we got to go to a break, but it's going to make a lot of people feel like they too can get away with murder.
And it actually happened another time as well too. I'm not sure if we covered it again. An off-duty sheriff not only shot and killed a Black man, but hit him with his car, and when he got up, shot him through his windshield. So it's continuously happening now, where these people are thinking that, oh, we can claim self-defense or I was in fear of my life. You had a freaking pickup truck that you hit this man with, that you use your car as a weapon and still shot him through the windshield.
Well, and this is why we have music. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we want to talk about the other side of this story. While Kyle Rittenhouse is a celebrity, there are celebrity rappers who are now being faced with more accountability as a result of their lyrics than Kyle Rittenhouse as a result of killing 2 people and then being acquitted. We'll talk about that when we come back with Like It or Not and Cardi B. A whole lot coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show.
Got a pack in the back and a seat on my left. What you wanna do, baby? You the best. Coming from the east, not the west. Southside got it written on my chest. And you know.
All right, make sure that y'all stay tuned. We got more coming up with the ladies, y'all. We have Olay joining us doing Like It or Not. Rebecca and Noah, man. Y'all stay tuned. Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We'll be right back.
I can get fly. I can get
Boondocks Dragon, good morning to you.
She said that she hate me, I hate me too. I can always tell when you're lying, girl, you're see-through. All these miles away, yeah, I just wanna see you. Baby, give me good face, she hit me like seafood. Remember when I saw you, hi, it's nice to meet you. Know my old girl salty, she just wanna be you.
All right, y'all, make sure you stay tuned. Like It or Not. What's going down? Coming up next.
Cause I've been a douchebag before, baby girl, I don't wanna repeat.
So I asked my friend Sam to sing a song about the iPhone and Samsung.
I take these drugs to my bladder. Yeah. She said she noticed a pattern. She say I look gorgeous, so tell her I'm flattered. But I hate my reflection.
And also I wanted to thank everyone for sticking with me while I figured out the meaning of the committee. It means a lot.
Hate my reflection. When I look at you, all I see is perfection. I'm so depressed and I don't know the reason. Just hope I feel better.
My wife asked me to put ketchup on top of this. Now I can't read anything.
I just hope I feel better. You said that you love me, don't know if it's still true. Hate it when you're not here, love it when I'm with you. You say you don't trust me, all the shit we've been through.
I told my wife she needs to start embracing her mistakes. So she hugged me.
Baby, can you tell me why are you so vengeful? I don't understand you. I can't live without you, but I can't fucking stand you.
Ooh. If money doesn't grow on trees, then why do banks have branches?
In public on that like she upset, but I know she loves it. I hate my reflection, and I look at you, all I see is perfection. I'm so depressed and I don't know the reason, just wanna feel better. Hate my reflection, and I look at you, all I see is perfection. I'm so depressed and I don't know the reason, just hope I feel better.
Scientists have just discovered a fossilized dinosaur part. They say it's a blast from the past.
I just hope I feel better.
How do you console an English teacher? There. All right, y'all, stay tuned, man. Like It or Not is going down. Starting up next. Y'all stay tuned. Rachel Manning, good morning. Hey, we started a band and called it Books, so no one can judge our covers. Tracy Jones, good morning. Hollywood, Chronos, Indian Brown, good morning to you. I ran into my friend Mark who stole my dictionary. I said, Mark, my words. Yeah, Rebecca, you ain't know that. When my wife caught me standing on the bathroom scales, sucking in my stomach, she laughed. Ha! That's not going to help. I said, sure it does. It's the only way I can see the numbers.
9 a.m. to 10:30, yeah. Like it or not, is on your channel, yeah. Politics,
Ryan, good morning to you. Y'all know what time it is.
Yeah, interviews and all the news. We get to choose what gets the views. Like it or not, with Queen Azor, get started now, so stick around. Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. It's come.
Just Hawks in my city. Good morning to you.
You know she got a good story for you.
183 Country Boy. Good morning.
That's my dog. This is his show. He's a politics bro.
There could be 100 people in the room.
DJ.
And 99 won't slap me.
DJ exclusive.
But one will.
Y'all know who I am.
I stay dropping them jams.
Like it or not, it's going down.
Chris Rock can figure out why Will Smith was on stage walking his way.
Y'all stick around.
Then it hit him.
Like it or not, it started.
What do you call a typo on the tombstone?
Like it
a grave mistake.
Yes, let's go down.
Like it or not, with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Hey, 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 good morning, good morning. Look, I gotta say all parts. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. Today it is Ladies Takeover. It's just a ladies' night. And we have two great attorneys on the screen. I don't know, Olay, if you've ever met Anoa. I don't know if you ever met Olay, but Anoa is someone who has background in law as well as you. So, I mean, look, nice to put y'all together. Hey, what's up? Hello. I love it so much.
Morning.
How you guys doing this morning? I know I had to drag you out of bed, Olay.
No.
And I know you got things to do. Yeah. So, but thanks for being here with me on this morning. Georgia couldn't stay for the whole show, but she did start out the show. So it was really good. Hopefully one day we can all be on there. absolutely love that throughout this whole, show today. Like I was telling Noah, it's funny because there are so many women in this space who do different things, right? In their career, who represent different things. We all look different. I mean, we may be black, but we all look different. All kinds of things. However, I love the different tones of voice, the different attitudes and personality, but it still gives me what I need, And I think in this space it's very important to understand that Black women aren't a monolith. They're not just one way. And even though it means that we're not just one way, doesn't mean that we can't all come together for the purpose of rooting for everybody good and Black. Because, everybody that's kinfolk ain't kinfolk. So, yeah. So, We got a lot to cover. I actually wanted to throw an audible. Over the weekend, I know that we didn't get an opportunity to discuss this. I know that you got to leave, so I wanted to get your conversation on Ketanji and her finally being confirmed, y'all. It's been a shit show to watch, really. Like her having to go through all of this hell and high water, while some people are saying it's due process, and us having to wait to see that moment for her. Yeah, so please, before we get to the clips of her finally being confirmed and those things, what was you guys' take for the whole process and us getting to this place finally? Especially you guys having, being attorneys. Olay, what was first to you? What was going through your mind through this whole process?
Listen, she's a Black woman going through this process, so I expected disrespect and racism. It's nothing about it shocked me. Let me say that. That's what I expected. I knew the minute whoever they chose was going to have to put up with a series of disrespect that didn't make any sense. So that doesn't surprise me. I'm glad it's done for her, but I expected it. I anticipated it. I knew they were going to be mad. It is what it is. I'm sure no one knows with Black women that have been in the legal profession. We know how it treats you. It's not even like it's just like that at that point. It's like that. It's a profession. It's filled with all kind of gatekeeping and all kind of disrespect and people who don't want to see you enter certain spaces. So that would have happened regardless if we were watching it on the confirmation hearings or not. So I'm just glad that she's done, and I don't have to spend my week arguing all over the news with all these people that are insisting that it's okay. So I'm just glad, good, she's done, she's in, and it's a beautiful win because not for nothing, I'm a public defender. I didn't have any Black women public defenders or Black woman public defender Supreme Court justices to look up to. So I'm glad that Black women that are in law school now and that are going to go through the profession are going to have that. So I'm very happy for her. She's adorable. This is a win.
You're a Black public defender with two of my favorite characters in your background too. So I feel like we're going to be we're going to be instant friends. Yes. I love it. I just peeped the background. Yes. But I appreciate what you just said, Olay, especially hearing from you as a Black public defender, right? As important as it is that she is, the first Black woman, it is so critical that she is a public defender and a Black public defender, right? Or that she had that experience as a public defender. And even as they try to distort that, right? They try to use that as a problem. Public defenders, and Olay can attest to this from your own experience, play such a vital and critical role. It is a constitutionally It's a constitutionally enumerated and protected role too, right? The right to counsel is in the Sixth Amendment, and Gideon v. Wainwright established, the right for those who cannot afford counsel to be provided. And then there's this history of the federal system, parallel, state and local systems creating, some hodgepodge of public defenders as well as private attorneys who are then contracted with to provide legal representation for folks who cannot afford it. And so having that mentality, which has not been on that experience that has not been on the Supreme Court since Thurgood Marshall left in 1991, because even though we get amazing dissents and powerhouse from Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Justice Marshall did do indigent defense work. Right. His time in private practice predates the Gideon case, but it's been so critical to setting the stage for other work that has come down the pipeline. So, but I agree. I absolutely expected it. The coverage is what bothered me, I think, more so than anything else. The reluctance to call it racism, the reluctance to really engage with Black media, of course, understands this, right? Black folks, Black women who are covering these things understand this, the misogynoir, other things present, but the absolute ridiculousness of claiming that she is pro-pedophile or that she somehow was just disparaging all women because majority of women with Black Senator Blackburn was going on this tangent of she was trying to deny a good Christian women their right to the First Amendment when we're talking about people harassing folks at abortion clinics, just the egregious lengths they went to disparage this woman because they actually had nothing. They had nothing.
They had nothing. Yeah, they had nothing, so they focused on honestly, if we keep it real, the real reason they were even attacking the fact that she was a public defender is because the population that most benefits are poor Black and brown people. That's it. Absolutely. That's the real reason. That's the real reason, and that's why they tried to make her record a source of contention. That's what their real problem is, because at the end of the day, right, the current president is a former public defender, and I didn't hear that was a blip in the media. I didn't hear any media coverage devoted to criticizing him for being a public defender. No, because he has a tough on crime record. They don't expect him to come in and there be any benefit to Black and brown people. But here they get this Black woman and they say, oh, you've represented poor Black and brown people. You might have some compassion for how they're treated in the criminal system. We don't want that. We want to make this issue. And more importantly, it wasn't even just about discouraging her, trying to stop, because they knew she was going to get confirmed. What it really was about was reinforcing this idea that there was something wrong, like that there's something wrong with being sensitive or wanting to respect people's constitutional rights, or not being tough on crime, or not being as punitive as possible, which is something they want our criminal system to reflect, and that is what our criminal system currently reflects. But it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way, and so they want to dissuade us from these notions of this progressive world that they think we're moving towards, which is why they tried to conflate every social justice movement with this woman. They asked her about every social justice movement and accused her of being the harbinger for them all. So that's what happened there.
And you know, Olay, that's interesting that you put it that way, because I can tell you out of all of the Twitter takes and the conversations that have been surrounding that, I haven't seen anybody really flesh out that one where, I mean, it's simple, right? We've called it a racist situation. We've said that they put her on the cross for simply her being a Black woman that is going to be in this space, and it makes them uncomfortable. But honestly, the fact that she was somebody who represented and defended Black and brown people really killed them inside, because they understood. That's what it was. They understood. I haven't heard that talking point so much, and I think that is so interesting that you put it that way, because it's simply, that's why they were looking for things and issues. The fact that they said you are a public defender, that's problematic, but why wouldn't somebody start from the bottom? Now we hear, like, why wouldn't somebody be in a place where they represented people that other people wouldn't represent? Like that, that's helpful to know that there is somebody who can be in place, who understands what it's like to be there, who understands that there are some people who can't get the assistance, and they're in place to do so, to be a representation for those people. I think that is a great quality for someone who is going to represent this country in that way. And I think they try to villainize her. So yeah, they tried to vilify her. You know what? I really love that point that you made. It's so simple, but it's exactly what was happening before our eyes. They were so upset, and that's why they kept questioning her character and saying, you were here so that basically you represented Black and brown people. That means that in this court, if something comes across your desk, like a case of Dante Wright, you're going to look at it and you're going to see it for what it really is. And I think that's what they're so afraid of.
Yeah, you notice the criticism was never about defense attorneys, right? I listened all week, and I listened to Ted Cruz's rant about public defenders. I listened to all the criticisms they had. They never made an overall sweeping argument about defense attorneys. They don't have any problem with private defense attorneys. They don't have any problem with you going and representing the people who have the means to pay you all kind of money and represent them no matter what they're accused of. They had no issue with that. They had a specific problem with public defenders. And what is the moral difference, right? Public defenders and private defense attorneys are all defense attorneys. We're all representing people accused of crimes, but you don't have a moral qualm with the people that are getting paid all the money. You have a problem with public defenders, so what's the difference? They represent poor Black and brown people. That was what your issue was. Because you know what I think is interesting? While people are always trying to create this moral divider between defense attorneys or public defenders versus prosecutors, most prosecutors go on to go do private defense. They do prosecution for a certain amount of years to give themselves a career and a way to go do private defense and make all kind of money. How come you don't have a problem with it there? Why is it not a problem? What is the moral outrage? It's because they represent poor Black and brown people. That's what it is. And so I was like, it's the loudest dog whistle of all time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's just beautifully.
Go ahead, Noah.
Now I was just going to say, absolutely, that's just beautifully said. And the other thing Olay mentioned about conflating all the different social movements as her, I mean, during the testimony, during the confirmation, the GOP actually had a GIF that crosses out her initials and replaces it.
And but CRT.
Right? I mean, in their talking points, they're literally like connecting her to all of these different things. They're at the top of their 2022 midterm election like battle cry. I mean, and you mentioned Ted Cruz. I don't know what it was like for you in law school, but I know I absolutely have classmates like him or colleagues from my law school, fellow alum, who would do the same thing, who would try to pretend like, oh, I'm being civil, because we kind of knew each other in law school. Now I'm going to sit here and attack your character and everything you do and misrepresent stuff, even though my kids also go to a school that has a social justice commitment, as I'm sitting here reaming you for this private school that you sit on the board of, right? Like the lengths that they went through during that process, it not only showed us who they were, but it reaffirmed what we know is the strategy going into the midterm elections. We saw Virginia, former Democratic candidate, Terry McAuliffe, one-time governor, fail miserably on responding to CRT, and other Democrats around him failing to address that attack, right? And the situation isn't that, oh, we should call it something different. No, we're not going to let you denigrate decades of Black scholarship, Black legal scholarship, and say it needs a different name. It needs better branding. No, it don't. Ain't nothing wrong with it. No. Ain't nothing wrong with Derek Bell's work.
They don't even know what it is.
They don't even know what it is. You won't put some respect on Derek Bell's name. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying that anybody's perfect, but you're gonna put some respect on Derek Bell's name.
They don't even know who my man's is. Like, they don't know what critical race. Yo, listen. What I find so frustrating about Democrats is they allow Republicans to play this game and gaslight everybody in their face and stuff. Just start calling stuff what it is. Start saying to these people, first of all, you don't know what you're talking about, and second of all, it's not relevant. What we do is we get bogged down in this dance with them while they're asking the stupidness, and we need to start saying, how is that relevant to anything other than you created that talking point? Because we need to be transparent. Too often, people in these media spaces and people in these political spaces are not being honest. Let's say what happens. These people sit around each other, they have a group, they have whatever it is, and they create talking points. They talk about what their base is, what their base is looking for, what their overall strategy is, and they say, listen, we're going to argue with this, we're going to say this, we're going to focus this, we're going to get caught up in the weeds. They have a strategy. And why are we playing games? Their strategy. That's what it is. They don't know what any of these things are. These are not, listen.
And they've been playing the long game for a long time.
They've been playing the long game.
They'll stick to it. They will stick to this certain strategy, like you said, Ole, and it is a long game, Noah. It's like they will stick to it. And you would think on the other side, when it used to be like really a clear divide, now there's blurred lines, because the other side, they'll try to play the same game, but then it just like they can't take the heat. But those people will devise a plan while their whole state is going down in flames, while they freeze to death, you know what I'm saying, while they can't get no health care, while there is there's no initiative when it comes to COVID for their people, while they're pushing people back into the offices. They'll go and focus on things like, let's bring this woman down. We cannot vote for her. We have to go and make our talking points include, and their talking points be dumb as hell. We have to make sure the talking points include, we got to make sure the talking points include that we say that, you know, Ketanji is somebody who is qualified in some way, shape, or form, but we make sure we say we will not vote for her. It's so stupid, but they really will power up on that. They will Megatron on that, and they'll form a line together. Yeah, and they'll form a line together to make sure they put her down, they chop her at the knees. Yeah.
And even allowing them to do that, right? Like, oh, she's really qualified, but I just can't bring myself because of her ideology. What ideology? Like, what ideology? What ideology?
We need to start calling people racist. I do not understand why America is so comfortable with making the environment comfortable for people to be racist, for people to say racist things, for people to do racist things, for people to subject you to racist discrimination. But then the problem is, if you say it's racist, like, you're supposed to sit there quietly, start saying it. I don't know why we play this game with them, you know, because that's what it is. It's this game where they get to be as loudly unprofessional, unacceptable, egregious in this public space, and our response is to say, and to, you know, get in our little private, you know, we respond quietly and respectfully, and we don't call it what it is, and we get in our little private circles, and then we kind of say what it is. No. We got to start addressing them from the jump, because they're not prepared for the address. They're not prepared to be addressed that way, and we need to start saying it. The same way they don't have no problem coming out there and showing their ass with their talking points of silliness. We need to start saying, you know what? Right quick, Ted Cruz, could you do me a favor and define critical race theory? Could you do me a favor? Could you tell me when you first stumbled upon it? Could you tell me what are the specific issues you're having? Could you tell me how it's being implemented at these schools? Ask them. Start the same way they don't have any problem putting us on trial for every little thing they come up with their mind and asking us about a bunch of things that are not even in our purview. The things they decide to bring to the table, you know what? Listen, I'm listening. You have the floor now. You have such a problem with critical race theory. Could you please articulate to me exactly what it is and what your problem is with it? And when you're done with that, could you please tell me the relevance to today's proceedings? That's what we need to start having these people do. But instead, we play the game with them. We start doing it. We start defending. We need to start calling what it is. All of this critical race theory attack and all of this, that has been nothing but a big dog whistle for how we suppress Black authors, suppress the social justice movement. That's all it is. The same way everything that they're doing with abortion got nothing to do with being pro. Yes, that's all it is. That's why isn't it convenient that they literally just picked every marginalized group and whatever they think are flagship causes, they think, because critical race theory is by no means a flagship cause in the Black community.
It's a very niche.
It's a very niche
concept.
Highly niche. It's a scholarly thing.
Most law schools don't even have a racism in a law class, let alone a discussion of critical race theory.
There is a lot in education that does not include CRT. If you went to school here, you know that it's like, me too. I wish I was raised on a little bit of CRT. You know what I'm saying? In my system, I had to go get that from my house. I had to go get that from my household. And then I had to go to an HBCU to just get it every day, not knowing what it's CRT, just knowing that there is Black education, there is Black history, there are many things that have happened in this world that surround Black people or Black culture or whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean that it's un-American. It doesn't mean that it's throwing sex into the face of your kids. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that there are Black people who did things in America and we should be learning about it. Whatever these people want to decide, because they let us read books about racism, about Black folks being basically.
Yeah, they don't have a problem telling you was a slave. They don't have a problem. They don't have any problem telling you was a slave, but they have so much of a problem with you saying who enslaved you and why it was wrong, and what the collateral consequences of that is. That's exactly what we need to start. Listen, I am all for the position of calling out hypocrisy and starting to frame these Republicans' arguments against them. That's why anytime you say I go on somewhere else, like when I wanted to talk about them being anti-choice, because pro-life is just not even the truth. But anyway, I frame that as judicial activism because that's what they're looking for. And let me use your words, the things you all don't like, your terms, because it's inconsistent. Which is it, right? Either you believe the parents have the absolute right to upbringing their children and the government shouldn't be involved. This is the next thing. So then why is it that you have something to say about what private schools are teaching their kids, what the curriculum is? You're worried about the schools, you try to ban books. What about that is giving you anybody that wants autonomy? For somebody that don't like big government and don't want the government involved and believe that children should be raised by the home, why do you have so much to say? Why do y'all have so much to say and so much to offer except the people that need your resources? There are a whole kind of, we have thousands and thousands of children in America that are in the foster care system, that are put up for adoption, that need resources, that are living beneath the poverty line, that are subjected to the school to prison pipeline. Why are you not worried about them? The only children you seem to be concerned about are the ones whose parents are educating them in a particular way you don't like, or the ones who are not in existence yet. Is that not an obvious hypocrisy and inconsistency? We have to start saying it. Instead, what we do is we allow Republicans to have no respect for anybody else's cultural practices, anybody else's identity, the way anybody lives their life. None. And then all of a sudden we get into this sensibilities game that we can't tell them that they're uneducated. We can't tell them that we're racist. Why not? Yeah, we have to be as educated as possible, and they get to come up here and question our credentials. So we need to start calling it what it is. Ted Cruz and them don't know their ass from their elbow. Why are we listening to these people?
When they go low, we go lower. I know that when they go low, we go high. That's Michelle about, but we're not in that era no more. We are in 2022. Love you, mean it, but we're gonna go to the grave. Like we're gonna take it low. You know, boots with the fur. Low. Anoa, thank you so much for being here today. She's gonna have to step away. We're gonna take a brief break. We're gonna be back.
Bye. Yeah, we're gonna be back with we gonna holler. And I love you, Rebecca.
Nice y'all gotta get together. It's good stuff. Both of y'all. You need to follow her on Twitter. You follow her on Twitter because then your timeline will definitely be blessed and highlighted. Both of you guys. So yeah, we're gonna take it to the a break. But thanks to Noah for being here with us. More ladies take over, like it or not, right after this.
Done this before you fall. I won't catch you don't know I'm stolen. Cause you love to have him all crying. Calling me sweet, telling me you need me. Said I'm from a city that's high school. I give him this anymore, I go. Cause you a bad man, she don't love money. She break grass real fast like gunman. When I swim down to the deep end, wanna know all my secrets, honestly. Can you keep it real? Cause honestly, I can tell that you're real fond of me. Baby, don't be shy, I can see it in your eyes. I've been running around, too bad, I've been sticking out your mind. I know you like it how.
All right, y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Had to change my camera battery. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. More likely than not, coming up next, my Rebecca and Olay. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned.
How you taking all my time? That Friday, can you take it all night? Take it, baby, I ain't scared to take it. Oh, and maybe when I take it, oh, I feel it coming down too strong. Cause I want ya, it is hard to resist. Cause I need ya, and it's hard to be cause I believe ya. Hold me tight, pulling on tonight. Holding a couple, get to your clean and proper. Yeah, I'm moving, know you can love her. You gon' have me on your mind forever, ever. Next, baby, turn it down like a sweet and ready. Go slow, keep it nice and steady. Know that you've been keeping patience. Too bad I've been sticking out your mind. I know you like it how I rock it from behind. I know you stand it, how you taking
JB, absolutely it does.
Too bad I've been sticking out your mind. I know you like it how I rock it from behind. I know you stand it, how you taking all my time.
Hey, David, you good up there, David? I just got a story saying multiple people shot in unexploded devices found in New York. Yeah, make sure that everybody's good up there, and then my man. Okay. All right, y'all, welcome back to the screen. Rebecca and Olay. Good morning, Olay.
Good morning. Good morning. Listen, we are at the end of it all, but nice little show. Hey, hold on.
There you go.
Okay, I've been doing this. I've been doing this all, like, I don't know, ever since, my nails been green, they've been hitting the microphone, like, and just really cutting me off. So they're more claws. I'm gonna cut them down for Easter, but yeah, I've been grabbing the mic, I've been doing all of these things. Anyways, but yes, we're at the end of our ladies takeover. I hope that we can do so much more of this. But before you get out of here, Olay, I wanted to discuss this particular story. It's been making its rounds, and before I wanted to talk about it, I wanted to get more and see if it was really what it was, because it was giving me that it wasn't a real story at first, and I wanted to make sure it was a real story. And it's about an OnlyFans star. Her name is Courtney Taylor. She killed her boyfriend. She murdered her boyfriend. She stabbed her boyfriend in what they're saying was an unprovoked attack. When it first initially hit social media, it was just like I couldn't believe it. But I can. This was, this was on April 3rd. They say it's reported that the 25-year-old blonde, who's an OnlyFans model and has millions of followers on social media, she killed her boyfriend Christian Tobichukwu. I don't know his name, but we know he's African. Who was 27 years old during a dispute at their high-rise apartment in Miami. Investigators say that he was stabbed once in the chest and had been involved in a physical altercation before the killing. They let her go, right? They just let her go. And her camp is now reporting that she stabbed her partner in self-defense. They let her go that same night. You can see her on video. There's videos around that she had right here. That she's bloody here. And then they also said that it was a mental situation. She was going through a mental breakdown. Here you can see her, like with her pet here, and then they let her go. Is that a corgi? Yeah. So the following day, I think she was spotted. If we have that video of at the bar, at the bar with her father, just chilling. And now, I think yesterday, it was being reported. Does that have sound, Dwayne? Because I want you guys to hear.
No,
the eyewitness.
This is just.
Okay, so in the sound, you can hear the eyewitness saying, "Well, what are you doing here? You just killed your boyfriend. You just murdered your boyfriend. What are you doing here?" She tells her father not to respond to the eyewitness, and they're just shocked that she's able to just be out for free when she was supposedly in a mental state where she could not handle what was going on, yet she's out at the bar. Ole, what is your take on all of this?
Okay, all right. Let me give it all to you, because a lot of things can be true. A lot of things are true, right? I know the popular opinion on this on social media, as far as I know, Black women, our collective group has decided online that they're not really advocating for this guy because he's anti-Black woman, right? He posted a bunch of tweets like 10 years ago being anti. Yeah. So let me just say this. I think that's a valid. Listen, no one has to advocate for anybody. There's a lot of work, a lot of things, and a lot of tragedy in the Black communities. I can understand you trying to ration out your supporting your activism. So I am not going to indict Black women and act like they need to feel compelled to defend this man. However, now that being said, that's aside. The community is let off the hook. Now let me talk. This right here, this is the clearest example of exactly how this criminal system moves with white people. It does not matter whether or not, even if she claimed it's self-defense, even if she was having mental health issues, whatever it may be, if she were anybody else, those would be arguments for trial. Those would be arguments her lawyers would be trying to make. She still would have been arrested. She would have been charged. She would be looking with murder. She would never be the fact that this woman was not even charged is a reflection of how our criminal system disproportionately works, because you and I both know it don't matter what nobody does to me. If I stab a man to death right now, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. I'm going to fight that. I'm going to have to fight that. My lawyers can make those arguments, but I'm not going to just be free to be able to go to the bar and go do whatever it is. Even maybe, now it's a different conversation. I wouldn't be indicting them if they had arrested her and she was out on bail. That would be a different circumstance. But here, they're just taking at face value, a Black man is dead, and this white woman says, oh, he started it, or I was defending myself. So it's just, we just let her off, no charges, no proof, no anything. She's just out and free. That 100% is, that's unjust. That's unjust. That is racism. That's a reflection of our system being unfair. So anybody who has that criticism for it, totally, totally legitimate. That's where I stand on that.
Yeah. No,
but I'm not surprised. But I am not surprised. I want to say this. I represent. Whenever, it's very rare. I could count for you how many times I've represented a white lady. Okay, and ain't not a one of them ever gone to jail. Not a community service. Not a fine child. Okay, not a one. Anytime I see, it's very rare you see a white lady in the court. White woman privilege in criminal court is different. It's built different. It's way better than anything the white man got. Okay, if you see a white woman in court, she did that shit.
Yeah, no, that is something that the fact that you pointed that out, that you had white women that you represented and they ain't never gone to court, and they ain't never really had to see no jail bars or nothing like that. Nothing. They never really had to just talk about their issues, because it is a systemic thing when the person happens to be especially a white woman. This is somebody that we've seen. While we've seen his tweets from 2015, from years ago, because they're 26, it's young, right? And so for 10 years ago or whatever, they're 15 years old, they're in high school, whatever preference they think they want at that moment. If y'all would have saw what I was saying in high school, my beliefs, where I stood on things, you know what I'm saying? We would have, y'all would hang me on the cross, but to hold him, these are some really spicy tweets. But he was a kid.
Hold on, pause it. Don't move the tweets. Let me read the tweets. Child. Ignorant child. Girl.
Oh, you haven't seen these tweets in person?
No, I did see a couple, but I saw them. What a beautiful white girl.
So let me read a few.
And we have the statement from the brother after this.
So he says, I want a white girl help. He's asking for help to get a white girl. He says, when the beautiful white girls wear yoga tights. Excuse me. I had to laugh about that, but he's dead. I can't do that. See, why y'all got me doing this right now? White girls wearing white booty shorts everywhere. Get that off the screen. Listen.
You know what I think is so funny? You know what I think is hilarious about this? Yeah. I can't say all the things I want to say, but I will say this. What I think is so funny in this particular white girl. I went on her page, whatever, right? Very enhanced white lady. They talk so much foolishness on Black women, right? And then let's acknowledge there was a time at Twitter where it was very popular for people to just be insane. Like Twitter culture has changed over the years. Not to say I will ever give anybody a pass for cooning because that's what he was doing. But as far as with this white lady, you talk all this on Black women just to get a white lady that has gone and got lip fillers and all these different things and tanners to do her very best to look like a knockoff Black lady. And now she stab you to death. That's crazy.
But he was 15 years old. I don't know what he was doing with his life, and he probably, experienced something different. I don't know what his tweets look like in the last few years of his life as he's been.
I know what his girl looked like in the last few years of his life.
I know what the girl started to change and morph into. I know that I saw her podcast. So while the tweets of him are going viral,
she's a podcast.
If we look at, she was on. She doesn't have a podcast. She was on a podcast because they give Black men who want to bash Black women microphones in this space to win. But anyways, they had her on this podcast, and so she was saying, he was saying, what type of women do you like, or excuse me, what type of men do you like? And she says, I like them Black. I like them rich. And then she's like, well, let me say, I like them Black and rich. I like them Black and rich. I like them Black with money. And, as I begin to watch her say that, she said, I only date those kind. I mean, she is the whitest of the whitest. I'm talking a blonde, white, and she gets to sit on here on a Black man's podcast and just tell people that she likes Black rich men. Damn it, the feds is coming in. But, as I say this to say that we're so focused on his tweets from 2015, but are we looking at her statements and what she's been doing? And then in that same thing, as I changed my battery out, in that same podcast, she stated that she likes to be the aggressor in every situation when it comes to relationships. She will only be submissive, of course, in the bed, but she said, other than that, I run things. If you're not listening to me, it's going to be a problem. So watch as this woman speaks about that as we're posting his tweets from 2015. And also, look at the fact that she finished stabbing this man. She went to go cuddle with her pet as she was in handcuffs. Cops let her go, saying that it was a mental issue. And then she went to go have a drink at the bar in Miami, in an area where she killed her then boyfriend. Ole, take it away as I change my battery.
I'm really trying to fight the spirit, the spirit of an old Black lady in my soul, being like, well, that's your gal. You shouldn't be messing with the white girls. And I'm really trying to fight it. I'm really trying to push it down to be like, she still murdered him. She's still wrong. I think, listen, the problem is this with what she's saying versus what he's saying is the reality is we don't not expect that from this white lady. You know what I mean? No one is shocked by what she said and what she did. Everybody's shocked about his conduct and what he said. And it's like, because it makes you be like, okay, on one word, it's like, yes, I can very much so see that this is an extremely problematic white woman, if by nothing else, by the fact that she murked her dude, right? Like, if nothing else gave it to me, the fact that she stabbed her dude to death, that gave it to me. But it's like, on one hand, I as a Black, and I get it from other people's perspective, I'm always going to call out, injustice as it is. And this is that, right? This no matter what, even if all the tweets from 10 years ago are still how he felt present day, and he's still that person, he still does not deserve to die, and he still does not deserve to be killed by this girl, and he doesn't deserve to have to live, to have been a victim in a criminal system that will not acknowledge that this injustice happened against them or punish this girl or whatever it is. None of that is fair. And so that is still true fundamentally. But on the flip side of that, you knew this gal was, hey, so all these podcasts, this problematic white girl, this is who you was choosing to, lay up in bed with and do this and the next thing or whatever. And these are these are not fair consequences of those actions. Let me just say that it's not at all.
Because she gets to cry.
It's hard for me to indict, for me to legitimately go on a soapbox and criticize, point out all the ways in which this white woman is terrible because the Black man that I'm doing it on the behalf of was down for that. You know what I mean? You down for that. You like that. You like how this lady is conducting herself. And so, and to me, and there's another thing is based on what I'm seeing you said about Black women, would you have accepted the same conduct and rhetoric from a Black woman? But at the same time, then it comes down to, I don't want to hold Black people responsible for internalized anti-Blackness, because that's what that is. Everywhere that's coming from, the way in which he's clearly putting this white lady on a pedestal and he's putting Black women down is because of something he's been taught. And he believes that it is some kind of social status reflector to be with this white girl, or what that says, or it's different, because he would judge the same conduct based on what I see and he said about Black women. He would have so much to say, but clearly just the fact that she's white makes it acceptable or tenable.
He doesn't have anything to say right now because he's dead. She done stabbed him and he is gone. So that is that, you know, and somebody said in the comment section,
Rebecca, you can't just say Rebecca, stop it.
Rebecca, that was terrible. That was horrible.
Rebecca,
I'm sorry. I decided to come in and say that was horrible. Okay.
He is gone.
I will say this. Somebody said in the comment section that he needs to get out. He can't get out because he's under now. All due to this white woman who gets to he can't say nothing from the grave. What she can do though is say Karen. She can say privilege. She can say he hurt me. Who is not going to believe a white woman? Who's not going to believe a white woman that
made her do it out to be an aggressor? She plays a white. Listen, and I represented it in court, so I already know. All right, I represented a white girl who came and presented me the defense child. She did that. She's that's the funny thing. It's like, no matter how much she's doing all this decoration and trying to make herself something else, and no matter what pedestal he's put on, whatever they're doing, at the end of the day, she is still fully aware of what her social standing is as a white woman, because it didn't take her nothing but a millieffing second to put that story into place. Immediately, man, dad, bloodied, stabbed him up. It's not really. It's not giving. I'm having a hard time. Listen, that's a big. Have you ever been in a battle with a man? You got the drop on him. It's not giving me that he was the. You got the drop on him, sweetie. You stabbed him and just killed him. It's not really giving me what you're saying. It's giving me. And also, I hate that they never do this. Whenever we talk about white people in self-defense, the proportionality standard always seems to fly out the window. Self-defense is not, Rebecca, if you say to me, you're going to slap me, or like you said, I make a slap you, I cannot shoot you. I can't stab you. That's not proportional self-defense. I could grab your hand. I could slap you. I could maybe punch you or something proportional to stop that. But you can't just say, hey, we would have an argument. He was the aggressor, whatever. Some. So I stabbed him to death. Did he threaten to stab you, sweetie? At any point?
But when it's a white woman, but when it's a white woman or a white person, even, it's just kind of like, you know. But they find reasoning or not. It's like how it's two things. We've seen how police deal with white people when they do, like I'm talking, committing domestic terrorism. We see how cops and leaders just be like, oh, that's crazy. Right? But a black person at the hand of it, we're going to see it stapled, taped. We're going to see what the person looks like, the representation. We're going to see and know their history. The first picture that they're going to show is them looking like bad little kids, or
could you imagine if it had been reversed?
And then,
could you imagine?
We're going to see something different.
Stabbed and
this girl is a OnlyFans model. She's an OnlyFans model.
He'd be under the jail. He'd be under the jail. He'd be under
exactly. So what the problem is that I see here, and then they will be like, we would know what she looks like. We would everything. But the problem that I have here with this whole thing is how white women can just say he whistled at me, lie about it, no kind of evidence or nothing. And I'm taking it back to Emmett Till, a whole little black boy, a black boy, and they can say that this happened. There is no evidence, no anything, and then live their lives, go out and live their lives, have a whole family while somebody's child was taken from them. And then we're looking at, fast forward to today with this OnlyFans model and this young fella in Miami. She got to go to sleep, wake up the next day knowing that she stabbed somebody covered in his blood, and go to sleep the next day, wake up, be with her family, and go get a drink at the bar.
Yeah, that don't shock me now, because you know what we've learned here? I hate to say it, but there's just no loyalty, no comfort, and no solace in tuning. These are because even if the consequences, you don't deserve to be killed, but the reality is that when you don't have any solidarity with your community, and you because you think it's to your advantage to criticize your community and criticize black women and whatever it is, you want to go be adjacent to this white lady and stuff. What happens is when you inevitably suffer the consequences of living in a racist country, because you do, and you will experience that. It doesn't matter what you would say as a black person. Say what you want. do what you want. You are still Black and you will still always be on the receiving end of some racism. What will happen is your community doesn't show up for you. And that's unfortunate. But here's the thing is our community is full. We have our dance card is very full with tragedy and injustice and things that we have to advocate around and stuff like that. So I cannot even in good faith tell Black women that already spearhead the movement on every kind of social injustice for us, every kind of Black person is wrongfully killed, every kind of police brutality, Black women are at the forefront, championing that and shedding light on the fact that it's unjust. And, I know that here we are, 2 Black women talking about it, and I ain't seen nobody else, decide to talk about it anywhere publicly or make the noise. And still, even with those reservations, we're still like, this is unjust. So let's say this, because it's always us doing that. So the consequences are, your community don't show up. They decide, they pick and choose, Listen, I can't take that on. This was a person that is completely dispelling or dismissing the reality of racism. And you want to go be kikied and laid up with this white woman. And based on the conduct that we've seen from you, it looks like if it had not been you, it had been a different situation and stuff, you probably wouldn't have had too much to say. So I can, in good faith, be like, listen, ladies, we gotta go to war for this one right here. I feel bad for him. Don't get me wrong. I still think he's a young kid. I still think that, I don't think Black people are to blame, and don't get me wrong, and that's hard for me to say because I don't like Kunin, but I don't think Black people are to blame for internalized anti-Blackness and for the different ways in which that's acted out. That is the country and the society that we live around and how that comes about. So I don't want to blame this young kid that he's making decisions based on whatever is the world, how it was treating him. And it's unfortunate that he has those tweets and all these different things that are leading, people to say, no, I'm not going to show up for you. But those are the consequences. And for those of you that are still there, because he's not the only one. There's a tribe. He is from a tribe of Black men that have them a problematic white girl next to them doing the same thing.
They on the podcast. They got the mics in their hand. They not working. They don't
put the mic down and pick up a book.
They go. Girl,
that's what they need to do.
All they got to do is go on to the internet and say, Black women are trash. And then they get all these views. They just say, Future is a god. They get all these views. Yeah. They get all the girl. They just be like, we don't wash our ass. They get all these views. It's crazy. It's crazy. They don't need no mic in their hand. They don't need no mic in their hand. But this is what we have. So you're right though. In this particular space, I ain't even mad at the people who feel like they do. My mind.
I got it. Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, but my mind goes straight to justice, though, because if he was a regular person that wasn't killed by this white woman and was killed by a cop, I would still want, I'm shooting. I'm like, I don't care. He needs justice because we can't. This is the same thing. If this white woman wins in this particular situation while the world is watching, imagine all the other ones that's going to be waiting to be like, shoot, I could do what she did. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure we ain't even heard of it. I'm sure it's happening all the time. I'm sure it's happening all the time. And we don't even, and we're not even hearing about it. And we're not this. But listen, here's the gag. Let me tell you something. I live in a world where if I were to say tomorrow that I had like a white boyfriend or something, which I don't, but if I said that, they would, and I know because I've been experiencing and I've been on a podcast where I just was sitting next to a Black woman that made a joke that Black men were able to, they extrapolated to infer that she might date only white men or something. And they called her and me and every Black woman that was on their bed went for 3 days, full 3 straight days. So I know how the world responds to Black women when we are so much as just romantically involved with a white man. We don't got to say one disparaging word about Black men or anything like that or whatever. So let me tell you something. I can't jump up for this man too much like that. Like, you know what? Like,
we don't have anything to say, but there needs to be justice here. But everything else I have to say, I don't want to speak about his characteristics. And those tweets are from 2015. Now, his choice to be with the white woman is his choice.
I have no white woman. It's the white woman. It isn't.
I was gonna say I have no issue with white women, but when you choose a certain type of person, period, I don't care what it is, but they can turn off and turn on whatever they want to. Like they will use their whiteness to privilege them when they are abusing Black people or people of color. They can use their whiteness to get them out of any situation. And I think that is something that we need to understand. I have dated a white person and I've seen him switch on and switch off that whiteness in him. Okay. Sure. So so I've seen it done in places where my Blackness is very huge in that area, is very apparent, it's very prominent. I've seen him utilize his whiteness to protect me. So in this particular, Yeah, no, that was back when I was a little thing. I can't do that in my life today.
If
but
you
that's
dated a white man right now and you got on Twitter, Rebecca, and you was like, fuck black men, pop, this, exactly. You was talking real spicy. If he murked your ass, you wouldn't hear but a whisper.
No. Yeah, girl.
I lied. You wouldn't hear about it because you would become the photo, the cause of like, you see that? You see what happens to them? Like that's how they would give it up. And you know
nothing. We wouldn't hear a thing. Just like that the girl who went on the Bumble date. We haven't heard about that case since. That strange Bumble date with that white man, and the white man,
exactly. And he killed him.
Police up and said, seemed like a good guy. That's it. And went on about their day.
That's how they go. That's how they go. Yeah. And you got to know that when you listen, you can't choose these people that are fetishizing you. And you know what? On the flip side of this is, I mean, he was fetishizing her too. It's a relationship filled with problematic racial ignorance, you know? And you know what? I can't get into these people's business. I cannot I will always call injustice what it is. If somebody that is that. It is still unfair. His family, he deserves support. I'm not one of those people that's going to be like, no one should criticize. Like, I'm not going to criticize people for supporting him or people for rising above and say, you know, these are tweets, this is whatever. Because if we got into the business of only defending Black people, only caring about racial solidarity and racial justice only when the Black person themselves is perfect or all their views were unproblematic, we're going to run into problems. Hopefully, preferably, they not be like a string of anti-Black women tweets that we could pull up. That's not best. But we shouldn't necessarily get into the business of policing it like that. I still believe, you know, he deserves support and he deserves his family to rally behind him. But at the end of the day, if you don't support community don't support you. So if in your life, it's unfortunate he's young, he's this, but from what we can tell, like, I'm not even talking about the past. At the end of the day, like, the tweets or whatever, I could dismiss that. But the present day, based on, you know, that tweet, that background, your present day choice in women and how you appear to be living based on what this woman is saying, because I don't know a Black man that feels strongly about his community and Black people and stuff that's going to be too hype about no white lady. He's being like, oh yeah, I want rich Black men. Could you imagine? They wouldn't even like that from, I as a Black woman can't even say I want a rich Black man.
No, we can't say that.
I can't say that.
We will be murdered. No, we can't say that because now they're gonna be like, oh, she's a gold digger. Yeah. But anywho, it is so much that we can get into this. I think that we can agree that he does deserve justice. His brother has put out a statement, you know, with saying basically what you were saying and the fact that we have to rise above a certain level and get the justice, because if we continue on just this one conversation about his tweets from 2015, we're not going to get anywhere with it. There's a white woman on the loose. There's a white murderer who is free. She's on the loose. Somebody go tame her. Somebody get her, put her under the jail, because we need to make an example out of situations like this. Because like you said, this has probably been happening, but now it is in the news. It is in our eyes. It's because of us that we've made this story viral. Whatever side we were on of it, the story has been pushed forward because we've been talking about it. So I hope that he does get justice. His family does get justice. And you know, be careful what y'all tweet online. Now, before we get out of here, before we get out of here, yeah, before we get out of here, there's so much that's happening. I know that you are in New York, both of you guys, David, both of you and Ole are in New York. It's a breaking news right now. People were shot. Undetonated devices were found in Brooklyn subway. Multiple people have been shot in Brooklyn. Yeah, subway station. And several undetonated devices were also found in the location, according to fire officials and 3 law enforcement sources. They stress the investigation is preliminary. At least 5 people were said to be shot by a man about 5 feet 5 inches tall, 180 pounds, who was wearing a gas mask and an orange construction vest, according to 3 senior law enforcement officials. He fled the scene and has not been caught. Several law enforcement sources say the shooter may have thrown a device before opening fire at the 36th Street and 4th Avenue station in Sunset Park around 8:30 a.m. today. The extent of the victim's injuries are not yet clear, but the story is still developing. You guys be careful out there, both you and David. I know David said he's not in Brooklyn, but I know you in Brooklyn. Just be careful out there. People in the streets are psychopaths. They're crazy. Please be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be covering more. We'll be as the story develops. We definitely be covering it right here on Like It or Not. But we are at the end of the show, and thank you, all the ladies. Georgia, thank you for pulling up. Noah, thank you for pulling up. And Olay, it's always a great time with you, Mama. We have such a good time. We can make politics fun. We can make the news stories fun. Be careful, like I said in New York. I will see you next time. Go and be great on Twitter and all them other spaces that you take over. Love you, mean it.
I will. Bye, boo. Love you too.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in today for the ladies only episode. Shout out to Georgia, Rebecca, Noah, and Olay for joining us this morning. Definitely need to do this. It was a moment of movement. Black beauty on the screen, and we love to see it. Shout out to y'all, man. Anyway, again, we will be here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. Y'all gonna be great today. Enjoy your day and do something special for yourself. And your affirmation for today: I am devoted to my healing process. I am devoted to my healing process. Love y'all, mean it. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Deuces, don't forget Patron Party Friday. We'll see y'all then. Deuces.
You been waiting on me to solve it for me. And last weekend, you had me thinking, almost kicked in and let my head up. Like bum, bum, bum. Put back in rotation. Cigarettes and just season.